Hello and welcome to Brewskis and House Keys. Yes, it's me, Nick Papantanakis, not with Nicole Kostelecki this week. We have a special guest here to join us to talk about some fun stuff. Welcoming Tony Beeson from HMA,
yes,
CMG.
HMA.
Yeah.
Once again.
Yeah. HMA, which stands for?
Home Mortgage Advisors.
Home Mortgage Advisors. Tony, I would love to let you, I would probably do a terrible job of giving a good bio. So if you want to maybe do a little introduction for us.
Yeah, no problem. So my name's Tony Beeson. Worked with Home Mortgage Advisors. Some of you may know my wife, Michelle, has worked with HMA for almost 13 years now.
Previous guest of the show.
Guest of the show. That's
exactly.
Right. She hung out with us. It's about a year ago that we talked with her. So this is good timing. Actually, I looked it up. So
great. I joined her in the mortgage world about a year and a half ago after a 24-year career in engineering.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a sharp change.
It is. For me, I was a project manager and a design engineer. So to me, every loan is a project. There's a process flow that follows, and everyone is a little bit different. Every borrower's got different circumstances, loan programs. Every house has a different set of circumstances that comes with it. So, I'd love to say I've learned the process, but there's always more to learn.
Well, yes. Gosh. That's our business in general, I think. It's constantly learning.
I try to get the mainstream ones and then, to really learn the process. But then there are so many unique factors that you're always learning one-offs here and there, and what applies in what circumstances is really still challenging to me. So I like that about the problem solving.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about one of those one-off things, which is kind of becoming not so much of a one-off today. One of the reasons why we wanted Tony on specifically is he and Michelle, with this partnership that HMA now has with CMG Loans, we have talked about it numerous times on the podcast, this thing, it's called the all-in-one loan. And Tony is kind of, I don't know if it's been voluntold into the role of being the expert of the all-in-one, or AIO as you guys call it. But it's a really fascinating opportunity for home buyers to look at things from a different angle. And so I really want to dive into that with you. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves though, because outside of HMA life, what's Tony do with himself?
I can tell you he's a great golf partner.
You're darn tootin' he is.
That's right.
We had the Remax Alliance Children's Miracle Network golf tournament recently. It was about back in the beginning of August, and the team of 4 that should have won this tournament this year was Nico, our guru behind the camera, who you almost never see, myself, Tony, and another agent named Lisa, who maybe we'll have on someday because she's fun to talk to too. But we had a really good time.
Engineer.
Also a former engineer. So really,
Nicole, former engineer.
yes, that's also true. I have a type. There it is. We figured it out. You're with me. We have a type.
I had a title as graphics engineer, so
That counts.
there you go.
In college, I think I was known as a drinking engineer. So it I was really good at it, seasoned, a lot of education.
You perfected the shotgun.
Yeah, there were a lot of
If you put a certain shape in there,
the right key to do the
hydrodynamics of it.
But that's not why our listeners are here. So, okay, a golfer, yes.
Yeah, golf is actually kind of a relatively new hobby of mine.
Okay.
But I am a lifelong endurance athlete. Ran track and cross country in college, high school, and first couple years of college. Went through a marathon phase, a triathlon phase.
I like that. As a phase.
Yeah. And, still like to compete in all kinds of endurance events, running, cycling, the occasional triathlon, some adventure racing, and then just kind of being fit for life. Had a few fun adventures with friends over the last few years that just put us on bikes for multiple days in a row.
Whoa.
Kind of a mountain bike ride, say from Durango to Moab.
Holy.
Over 7 days.
That's a long time.
It is, but I love it.
I mean, you would have to. Now, I want to know what adventure racing is. Is that like where you get muddy and gross?
It can be.
Okay.
Usually that's involved, but it sounds like you might be thinking of like Tough Mudders or
Sure.
things like that. So the ones I've gravitated towards recently are a little different than that. There'll be a multi-phase thing where there's paddling, usually some paddling component, trekking or running and mountain biking.
Oh, jeez, man.
And then there's an orienteering component where you'll be out in a park. There's no set course. You just have orienteering flags that you have to go find. And you get on your bikes and you can go in any order, in any direction you want, whatever you think is most efficient for you. So you get to plot your own course,
dude,
problem solve a little bit, and be on your feet for a long time.
I don't know why that sounds like a childhood dream of mine to like play a giant game of capture the multiple flags.
Exactly.
I mean, yes.
You are primed and ready. You and Michelle should be on The Amazing Race.
Yes.
I think you'd be the $1 Million Champion.
I would love that.
All right, so Amazing Race, if you're listening, the people of CBS, maybe?
Next season?
Yeah. I think we've got your candidates right here. This is your unofficial audition tape right now. No physical stuff right now.
Have you ever heard of a race, I guess, that was on Amazon a couple years ago, the Eco Challenge?
I think I've heard of that, yeah.
They brought it back 2 years ago, I think, and it had a long history in the mid-90s to early 2000s.
Yeah.
So a good training partner of mine was actually in the most recent
version
way of the Eco Challenge. Yeah. And if you haven't checked it out, it's worth it.
Oh, dang.
It's what I described, only over like a 7-day period in the worst conditions imaginable. Open ocean kayaking.
Oh, no.
Things like that.
No.
There's always someone crazier, is my infamous saying
I
when
feel
it
like
comes to endurance
that makes
sports.
sense.
There's always someone that's going to take
So note
it
to self,
further.
I'm not fit for adventure racing. That's what I've learned about myself just now, so never mind. Well, I know that Michelle has talked about some pretty sweet rides you guys have done, including in the Alps, right? On cycling, as far as like road biking goes.
Yeah, for our 10th anniversary, we did a trip with Trek Travel that was called the Classic Climbs of the Tour.
Oh,
the Tour de France. So they kind of shepherd you around the Pyrenees, to Mont Ventoux, to the Alps, to do these classic climbs that you see in competitions year after year. It's really made watching the tour before and after really interesting when you can say, I've been there. I remember that thing at the top.
I imagine it'd be like you played Augusta and then you watch some sort of like amazing golf. You're like, oh my gosh, I was just there.
Very much like that, yeah.
I like that.
Trip of a lifetime.
Dang, man.
I'd do it again next year if I could.
And you and Michelle are beer lovers, much like myself and the listeners of this podcast.
Yes, we are.
And you've brought us something that is somewhat near and dear to home here.
Yeah, it's right up the street from our house.
You want to tell us about it a little
Brewery.
bit?
Yeah, a good friend of mine had a personal connection with some staff at the brewery there, and it was a frequent of our after-work happy hours for quite some time. It was a good meeting location. I think his personal connections there have kind of moved on to bigger, better things, hopefully, but still really great beer. They have a lot of IPAs, which is something I tend to frequent and love to sample. And they do a lot of seasonals. They get into some of the great German recipes in the fall and sometimes even in the spring as well.
I know.
It keeps me going back.
I was looking at their website and they had like a Helles lager on, right? Maybe it's year round. I don't know, but that's one of my favorite styles. I know. And then, right now. So what he's brought us today is their Oktoberfest, which for those of you that listen to the podcast regularly know that this is something I've been looking forward to all year. And it's here, and so I'm savoring every minute of it. But this is it's called Oktoberfest. This is possibly the best one I've had this season, and I have oddly tried a lot recently, like in the last week or two, nice. 4 or 5 different breweries that I've been to around the area, and this one easily has the best balance of like that breadiness, a little bit of bitterness. It's super clean though as a finish. So like that's a delicious Oktoberfest. And then what are you drinking?
The Urban Lumberjack.
Which is what you got?
A hazy IPA. Westfax has multiple IPAs at different times. They do a great job of turning over the selection. I do believe this is one that stays in the rotation more than others, and that's kind of why I brought it today, just to provide one seasonal and one
classic
traditional staple that hopefully people could get, even if they're listening to this next June. They could go in there and still get one of these.
And you were saying, pretty darn tasty.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the quote on the back that says, so juicy it'll blow your beard off.
Oh, snap.
Quoted by Paul Bunyan.
That's, it's true.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
And both of you actually,
same here, yeah.
These two, both these men had nice, full manly style beards. That's not something that happens on this side of the table, but no matter how hard I try. But the IPA is fruity. It's got a little bit of that juicy going on.
Definitely juicy. Yeah, I would grapefruity, bordering on orange almost. Maybe a tad.
Super citrusy. It's delicious, actually.
I didn't know this. I feel like this is kind of serendipitous. I didn't know this place even existed. And then last week, we had the opportunity, my wife and my daughter and I, to go to the infamous Casa Bonita and have dinner. And we were waiting out front of Casa Bonita, and I looked to my left, and right there, literally sharing the same little shopping center, is Westfax Brewing. Didn't think much of it at the time, other than saying, we should go there sometime. And then when I asked Tony, hey, what are you going to bring for the podcast? So I'm pumped. I'm pumped that we were able to try this, and now I know for sure we got to go back in there.
Yeah, you asked me the address, and I'm like, I have no idea. It is right next door to Casa Bonita.
What more do you
Everyone
need?
knows that.
It's on West Colfax by Casa Bonita. Done.
It's a huge part of this can. It's on every can,
It is.
Massively.
Obviously,
So
I
is
haven't
that
been
on
paying
West
attention.
Colfax or?
That's 6733.
Oh wait, is that yeah? So I do want to dive in because I know there's a lot to talk about as far as this loan. So just to set the stage a little bit, so CMG Financial specifically, but HMA through partnership with them, have access to a lot of really cool loan options. I think we've briefly talked about Home Fund It before on this podcast, but we've talked more than one time about the availability of creative outside-the-box loan types, and we keep coming back to the all-in-one, or as you guys refer to it, AIO loan. And it's a really cool product that, I mean, it doesn't make sense for everybody.
No.
But more and more I'm thinking about it that when interest rate plays a huge role in your mind as a buyer, the all-in-one can kind of be your buddy and help you navigate those waters when interest rates are uncertain or higher than you feel like they should be, which I do air quotes because, 7.5 is still, a reasonable rate in the grand scheme, but it's also a hard pill to swallow coming from 3% a couple years ago. So anyway, I would love to just kind of jump in. Could you maybe give us a summary of what the AIO, what the all-in-one loan is?
Yeah, I mean, I like the way you phrased it. There's a lot of out-of-the-box solutions out there, and I think this is the furthest out of the box. It's the most unique that we have, and I don't know, you said something a minute ago that made me think of this, but I wasn't really voluntold to focus on this product, but this product, when it became available to us, really spoke to me. With my engineering background, it is very kind of math heavy. The numbers just kind of take you to the place where you want to be. And it's also a product that, frankly, I wish I had when we were buying our homes and interested in accelerating payoffs and making extra principal payments on traditional 30-year mortgages. To do that, this is something that would have fit our needs a lot better if we had known about it or had it at that time.
I mean, that's kind of the story. I mean, my wife and I I've mentioned it before on episodes too, that we're starting to dabble in the realm of we would like to buy our next home.
Sure.
And we've talked about this more than anything else as the route to get there. And I think the way you bring it up is a really good point, that it does work. It doesn't just work for that as like, an experienced buyer, but I do think there's a lot of validity to, if you understand the home buying process, this is a little more approachable. Would you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. So maybe we should get into what it really is.
Yeah. Let's hit it.
So, I mean, technically, it is a first lien home equity line of credit, or HELOC. And why that's important really is it pays principal first, which is hard to describe without contrasting it to a traditional 30-year mortgage, which has a set amortization table. And if you don't know, amortization is a distribution between principal and interest with each payment. Interest is very heavily front-loaded in all 30-year amortized mortgages, even in 15-year amortized mortgages. Interest is still front-loaded. So much to the fact that 10 years into your 30-year traditional mortgage, you will have paid half of the interest that you will pay over the entire 30
bananas.
Years. It is. It's a good deal for banks.
Sure.
They're doing that. And I can't totally bag on these products because we sell them too. And they're great for some people. All-in-one is great for another set of people. And that's what we're here to talk about today.
Yeah, well, and I agree. I'm not necessarily bagging on it, but for those that don't know that, I mean, a conventional 30-year loan, that's a lot to muscle up in the first 10 years, that you're paying that much more just to the bank, not to your own equity.
It is.
It's a pill to swallow. It's good to know. It's really good education.
Particularly when you see facts that we've all seen, like most people stay in their home 5 to 7 years before they're moving on to something else or refinancing. It keeps you in that initial front-loaded period where most of your money is going to interest. And then the all-in-one loan really allows you to develop equity faster by getting payments towards principal much faster.
So do interest payments still come into play with it?
Yes. There is still interest. We are still a bank. The bank still makes a profit.
I tried, everybody. I tried.
Yep. But, the way I look at it is, they're okay doing less. They're okay putting the buyer in control of how much interest they're paying, what their total loan costs are over the life of the mortgage. So, one of the key things to making this happen is that your new all-in-one loan comes with a linked checking account. And there is a nightly sweep function on this linked checking account that moves any money in your checking account into your home equity line of credit to lower your principal balance immediately. And this kind of works on the concept of idle cash, as I like to call it. My mom was a bookkeeper. She taught me that you have money in your checking account for when your bills come in so you can pay them and you do not need to finance your everyday living expenses. And I think the result of that for a lot of people is kind of a lot of excess cash just hanging out in your checking account, earning 0%. Maybe it's hanging out in a savings account, earning a couple of tenths of a percent, depending on how much you have in there. And this takes that money and moves it into your line of credit and lowers the principal amount immediately. And that benefits you in the long run because of how interest is computed on the all-in-one loan. It is not that amortized schedule where it's set from the beginning how much interest you're going to pay. We do a nightly interest calculation on that loan balance. So if you deposit a check into that linked checking account, it'll sweep that night. You'll have a new principal balance, and you'll have a different interest calculation that night. It's a simple interest calculation. It's your principal balance times your interest rate divided by 365. You get a daily interest total.
So it'll fluctuate throughout the year, throughout the week.
Absolutely.
Based on what you're depositing into this account.
Yep. Tomorrow you make online bill payments out of your account. Your principal balance goes up. You get a slightly different interest calculation that night. And then we kind of total up the month's worth of interest calculations through September. And then on October 21st, that the total of that interest gets applied to your loan balance on the 21st of October. So there is no required payment. There is no principal and interest payment. You're not required to log in and click pay. But interest is still accruing. So it's in your best interest to make payments.
Right.
And you do that by simply depositing your direct deposit, commission checks, rent checks, any sort of income stream that you have into this checking account, and they are put to work on your loan balance that night.
So I think that's probably the most, and we have a couple other things that I definitely want to cover, but I think that might be one of the most important pieces as a takeaway from this that I've taken away personally. And I know my dad, who you all know, is an agent, and my mother recently bought an investment property using this loan, and their experience with it was this as well. They said because of the money they were putting down and the way they were able to put cash towards that principal on a regular basis, this investment property, $450,000 investment property, they're going to pay off in 5 years.
Yes.
So to me, that's the no-brainer, like light bulb moment to know that if you play with this loan product correctly, you can really not only develop your equity faster, but it sounds to me like it does take that negativity out, because I think interest rate really is keeping a lot of people on the sidelines right now. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
And it takes some of the negativity out of that, because yes, your interest rate may be 8%, say, heaven forbid. I'm sorry if you all logged off after I said that. But say it's at 8%, but it's adjusting daily, and I could be saying this wrong, but if your principal is constantly being paid down, I'm assuming your interest payment is going to be smaller.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
there, like you said, it is math heavy, but I think there's a lot of good that comes into this that takes some of the heat off of buying right now, and can get some folks maybe a little more comfortable with an outside the box product.
Yeah. I like to remind people there's really 3 variables in the interest equation. There's rate, there's principal, and there's time. And traditionally, an amortized mortgage schedule was developed pre-World War II.
Yeah.
And, they developed that way for a reason.
100%.
Yeah.
Tried and true.
But that amortization schedule really takes out time and principal balance out of the equation, and it really makes you focus on rate. The all-in-one loan puts those variables back on the table and puts you in control of how much money you have going towards principal every day, every month, and how quickly you can pay off your loan. And those 2 variables, if managed correctly, can greatly reduce the loan cost. And by that, I mean the amount of interest you pay over the life of the loan.
So you're telling me that for 90-ish years, we're wired to understand that rate is tantamount to my success or failure in home ownership. If rate goes up, I'm in trouble. If rate comes down, I should buy. And that's the one path that most people know to home ownership, I think.
It is. It's what our grandparents learned. It's what they taught our parents. It's what our parents taught us. We kind of have to unlearn that a little bit with this product.
Yeah, which I think is good, because like you said, there's a place for the conventional loan. I think the conventional 30-year fixed rate loan still makes complete sense in a lot of ways for some people.
Yep.
But knowing that there's another option out there greatly opens up so many avenues for people, and myself included. My wife and I, as we go down this road of trying to buy a new home, that's exactly the route we're going to go, because I work in a variable income job. And so knowing that it's going to kind of do this, that we can pay more sometimes, less sometimes. And to us, that was the easiest sell, that it wasn't going to be some sort of, because truly, if you break down a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at 7.5%, which is what it was last Sunday or whatever, Saturday.
That's fair.
On a $500,000 home, you're looking at a $4,000 a month mortgage payment-ish.
Yep. And if you look at the amortization schedule on that, the first month's payment will be about $400 in principal and $3,600 in interest.
So, I mean, the payment alone is hard to swallow when you come from 3%, which where it was a few years ago. I know what my mortgage is right now, and it's not that. It's not $4,000. So just the idea of paying that every month on a set schedule is what is keeping a lot of people on the sidelines. And I think one of the messages I wanted people to hear from you specifically, is it doesn't have to only be that way.
It does not. Yeah.
It's like a loud bell that I want to ring for everybody. Hey, check this out. This thing's amazing.
Yeah. One of the other benefits we haven't really talked about is, in addition to that accelerated payoff, you have access to that equity in your home for 30 years. For the first 10 years, we'll keep your line of credit at its maximum, probably an 80% loan to value. And then we start to taper it off over the last 20 years just by a straight line reduction, 1/240th every month. And really the purpose of that is just so you don't end up with a large balloon payment in the 11th month of the 29th year. But what this does is allows you access to the equity in your home. If you pay things off sooner, you can borrow against your house. It's not even really borrowing. You're just accessing the equity that you have. You don't need to fill out an application or talk to a banker.
And go through the process of a HELOC.
Any sort of process.
Yep.
You just have access to it. For anything like remodeling expenses, buying a car,
buying an investment property,
buying a down payment on an investment property, or buying it outright, tuition expenses, medical expenses, whatever you want. It's as simple as using your checking account. And I know you're going to ask me about this. I'll try just to answer it, but there aren't any real strings attached with using that. There are some limitations, but I think they're normal in my mind with normal checking account uses. There's a kind of a maximum ATM withdrawal, cash out every day. If you have bigger payments, like you're going to make a down payment on a house, you're arranging an ACH transfer or a wire transfer that have nominal fees. But other than that, there's no process to access that credit other than using your checking account.
I want to go back to something you said too, because I think not only is that a huge piece of this puzzle, that you have access to this money at all times, but you mentioned not having, you have that schedule kind of tapered off so that you don't have a big balloon payment at the end. Mm-hmm. The all-in-one loan is not a fixed rate mortgage, which I think you kind of briefly said.
It is not.
So an adjustable rate mortgage, or for those of you that are savvy, an ARM. An ARM typically comes with that balloon at the end, does it not? Or sometimes can?
They can, yes. Yeah. Traditional ARMs or lines of credit are oftentimes in a second position, second mortgage. And a lot of them would be interest-only payments that have a big principal payment at the end. They can be structured many, many different ways.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to totally lump them all together, but the all-in-one loan is different from all of them.
Yeah. I think that's a big piece too, is that it's not, you don't have this like other shoe to drop moment that can come a lot of times. And
there's
not
a black cloud looming out there
right
in our future.
That's a good way to put it.
This is going to come back to bite us at some point.
I think one of the pieces is that, the adjustable rate can scare a lot of people because rate is what we focus on, like we said earlier, but then not only because the rate is what we focus on, but also because what's looming. So all-in-one kind of pulls both of those out of the equation as far as sticking points, I guess.
Yeah.
They're still there. I mean, you still are paying off the principal, and you still have an interest rate that's going to adjust every day.
Yep.
But the difference is that you aren't, I guess, beholden just to that one little thing, that you can really have a little more control of your fate.
Exactly. So let's talk about ARM a little bit. I don't want to gloss over that.
No, I think that's important.
It gets a black eye in our industry these days because rates have been going up and up and up, and it's not in our control. But let me say that all ARMs are a margin plus an index. And our margin is variable. You can buy down the margin on this ARM just like you'd buy down points on a traditional mortgage.
Okay.
The index is the 1-year CMT, constant maturity treasury. If you go to some of our online resources, which we'll put up here in a minute, we'll show you what the 1-year CMT index has done for the last 25 years. You can see with a with a couple of clicks, you can go to the St. Louis Fed and see what it's done since its inception in 1962. And that's kind of all to say that we all want a crystal ball. We all want to know what it's going to do in the future. And the best thing we can do for that is look and see what it's done in the past. So the 1-year CMT index tracks very closely with the Fed funds rate, which is what we hear Chairman Powell talk about every 6 weeks, and what's in all the news cycles are rates going up or holding steady. You're probably sick of hearing about it, but the 1-year CMT, I can show you a plot of it. They track very, very closely.
Okay.
So we're in that ballpark. So we've got the index plus the margin is your rate. These rates right now are higher than 30-year fixed. There's no getting around it. It's tough to say how much they are higher, but 1.5 points, 2 points. So that scares some people. And
sure.
I'm not here to paint an overly rosy picture, but I'll say before you get wrapped up in rate, come to our online calculator at allinOneLoan.com or at michellebeeson.com and put in your circumstances. And there's an online calculating tool that will tell you whether your control over principal and time are enough to defeat a higher rate, so to speak.
I love that. That's a black and white picture that you just painted in my mind. Like, that's good.
I hope so.
That's helpful. Yeah, no, because I mean, if you put these two variables in, are they enough to defeat this?
And from there, it's just math.
Yeah.
Which is what I love about this, being an engineer.
Yeah.
At heart, I'm not a salesperson. I can put the numbers in, explain the math, and if the math doesn't lead you to this product, I have no interest in selling you this product.
Yeah.
We've got other things that'll suit your situation better. But if you are someone that's interested in that accelerated payoff or having access to this equity over the life of your loan, it can be a real benefit to you.
I just think that this is something that needs to be shared with as many people as possible. So I definitely want to do more with you and Michelle and share this info with as many people as we can. I mean, we may put together some sort of event in the future where we invite people to come and hear the full presentation. I mean, I know there's a lot of usefulness and I guess clarity from the graphics and the simulator that you guys can run for individual scenarios too.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's worthwhile. I got to shift us gears a little bit because I know that we could probably nerd out on this enough for a 2-hour podcast, but I don't know that we have a 2-hour podcast. So I have to ask Nico. But I am curious if we can shift gears back to beer for a minute because I feel like that's an important one. One of my favorite questions I asked your wife, Michelle, a year ago when we sat here was, if you could sip a cold beer anywhere in the world, where would that be? And what would you be drinking? What style of beer?
Man, I should have listened to her answer.
No, this is more organic. This is perfect.
No, I would probably be somewhere in the Alps with a South German Hefeweizen.
Oh, my.
I'm pretty confident that's the same answer.
It might be. It might be.
I'll have to go back and look.
She might have even referenced the trip you guys took.
Yeah.
She might. I think. We'd have to go back and look. Fact check. Where's fact check Phil?
Already done this?
Well, there's a picture in my phone that I go back to all the time of sitting at the top of the mountain with a beautiful, beautiful scenery in the background, snow-capped mountains, and just a nice
big old stein of beer.
Yeah, no. I mean, one of the things we lose out here in the United States is some of the artwork that comes in glassware for beers.
Yeah.
And man, the Europeans do that up right. So you would not drink a German Hefeweizen out of a pint glass in Germany. They all come in the big, large top. I don't want to say fluted. I'm probably not doing it justice by describing it.
But I think I know what you're talking about because I feel like any given beer has its got its own buddy glassware. Like you don't drink this out of that. You drink that out of that and this out of that. Like It's very specific.
Stella Artois is super.
Yeah.
Hoity-toity about
With their gold rim.
Yeah.
That's right. I like that answer.
Yeah. And what I remember about it is it's not just, there's also the shape of the glass, but they're usually always branded. Mm-hmm. And you can go to any bar and you would never drink Coors Light out of a Bud Light glass.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, here we just drink all of our beers out of a Remax Alliance water tower pint glass. So we're not even on the same page as
this is very
Europe.
Universal.
Yes. Still tastes good, though. I will tell you that. I have to thank you for coming on and spending time with us. I do want to allow you the chance to share. If people want to reach you, how would they get in touch with you directly?
So Michelle and I work together. Obviously, we're a team. MichelleBeeson.com is probably where we direct most of our traffic.
Okay.
But you can email me at anthony.b@hmaloans.com.
We'll put all that right here. It'll be like right here on the screen,
Great.
too, for sure. And we'll put it in the comments.
Maybe a little closer to Tone.
Maybe over here.
Fair enough.
Over here. Right here.
Fair enough.
I just think that you guys are such a valuable resource. We're very lucky to have you guys around and have you as just a knowledge base because, man, we can't speak to this stuff like you do. So y'all are just wonderful to have around.
Great. I'm glad you see it that way. I think we both think that's our role in the process is to provide education. So that's what we try to do.
It's been a huge benefit to us and to our clients for sure.
Sure.
I mean, the praises they have to sing are too many. So thank you again. Thank you to Westfax, which can be found at 6733 West Colfax Avenue. If you guys didn't hear earlier, wonderful beer, and they have a second location in Colorado Springs. And I liked how their website said, we don't know how many barrels we're going to brew this year because we just opened our tap house in Colorado Springs. And with our pink neighbors opening up this year, we may do a lot more barrels than we expected. So go check them out. If you haven't, I will for sure. I'll take my family there because that's one of our favorite kinds of outings. And
if you happen to be a Buffalo Bills fan.
Oh, so they're
an official watch location and have Bills backers support and paraphernalia all over the place.
I can't wear my Broncos stuff in there then. I'd probably get in trouble.
Maybe just not on Sunday.
Maybe not on Sunday. Okay.
Any other time.
Note to self, do not wear. It's hard to wear it anyway these days, but we don't have to get into that because that's just depressing.
It's a good time to become a Bills fan.
Yeah, jump ship now. It's fine. It's okay, guys. Admit it. Westfax will put their info in the comments there as well. Thank you all so much for listening as always. Tony, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on. If you have not done this yet, which would surprise me at this point, but if you haven't, it's okay. You still have time. You liked what we did today. You liked what we talked about. You liked the education you got from Tony. Definitely click that subscribe button because we want to give you these resources as much as we can. Like us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. We have our YouTube channel as well, so check us out there. And above all else, stay tuned because we will be coming at you very soon with one of my favorite episodes, which is talking all about Oktoberfest beer and not about real estate, which will be so much fun. So in the meantime, thank you again, and cheers, sir. Oh, darn. Well, toast it anyway. It's so good.